Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in less than 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. Today, what's next for the Supreme Court nominee? The WikiLeaks leader is leaving, and weed allowed at the airport? Those stories and more in less than 10 minutes. I'm Erica Mandy. Today is Friday, September 28th. You ready? Let's do this. Today, there could be a vote on whether or not to recommend Judge Brett Kavanaugh to become the next Supreme Court justice. There's a scheduled meeting for 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Of course, yesterday was the public hearing where both Kavanaugh and one of the women accusing him of sexual assault both testified. But before we talk about the recap, I also want to quickly acknowledge that this has been a pretty tough story for a lot of people. Not only does it involve a lot of partisan politics, but also Time reports the National Sexual Assault Hotline saw a 147% increase in calls yesterday compared to a normal weekday. So if you're affected by this or have just heard enough, we have several more stories coming in just 1 minute. But here are a couple of the highlights of what happened and a look at what comes next. So Christine Blasey Ford testified first in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee and on live TV. She also answered questions. Her voice cracked a bit and she said she was terrified, but she was calm throughout. She said she's certain it was Kavanaugh who sexually assaulted her in high school at a party, and she gave details about what she says happened. She said she only came forward now because she feels it's her civic duty to share the facts before such a big decision is made. After she left, the nominee to become the next Supreme Court Justice, Brett Kavanaugh, gave his opening statement and answered questions from the committee and on live TV. He was passionate, tearful, and angry. He said this confirmation process is a, quote, national disgrace. He called it a calculated political hit, and he said he never did what Blasey Ford says he did. President Trump showed his support for Kavanaugh, but the New York Times says his fate is likely in the hands of just a few Republican senators that have been undecided so far. For now, the plan is for the Senate committee to vote as soon as this morning as a sort of recommendation for the rest of the Senate. Then it could go to the full Senate for the final vote early next week. It's official now. The government is suing Tesla CEO Elon Musk. NBC News reports the Securities and Exchange Commission, or SEC, is claiming Musk misled the market with his tweet in early August. Remember that tweet? The one where he said he had funding secured to take Tesla private? Well, it turns out he did not. The SEC says the law requires public companies to be accurate when talking about business. Musk says he plans to fight this, and the Tesla board of directors is backing him. There's now a new leader at WikiLeaks. The well-known founder, Julian Assange, is stepping aside. And the reason? He does not have internet access. Really. He's been hiding out at an Ecuadorian embassy in London because he's accused of sexual assault in Sweden and might face charges in the U.S. for leaking classified documents. Well, the government in Ecuador has now cut off his internet access, so it's sort of tough to run a website without the internet. Remember, Assange created WikiLeaks in 2006. It's meant to be a place to publish classified documents and data from anonymous sources for everyone to see and potentially hold governments and others accountable. It got a lot of attention around the 2016 presidential election. WikiLeaks released 2 sets of emails related to Hillary Clinton. Well, now a longtime spokesman for WikiLeaks, Christian Rafson, is taking over. For the first time in Major League Baseball history, there were more strikeouts this season than hits. The AP reports it's also the 11th year in a row now that a new strikeout record has been set. Some worry this is not great for the entertainment value of baseball. Already, attendance across the majors is down. HBO is saying goodbye to boxing and dropping coverage of live boxing by the end of this year. ESPN reports it was the place to go for the biggest fights in boxing for 45 years. But now HBO says it's widely available and no longer unique. So it's stepping away in 2019. There are several more stories to talk about today, but let's take just a quick break to thank our sponsor, Swap.com. Swap.com is the world's largest online consignment and thrift store, so whether you'd like to find the latest fashions or just pick up some goods for your Halloween costume, no need to go searching through racks at resale shops. Instead, check out Swap.com and find what you need with convenience. No sitting in traffic or checkout lines. Plus, you can save up to 90% off retail price on women's, men's, athletic, and kids' clothing, even toys. Plus, you'll find your favorite brands. Think Lululemon, Carter's, Nike, J.Crew, and Gap. Swap.com sells gently used quality hand-inspected items and adds new items to the site daily. Get 35% off select items for your first order by going to swap.com and using the promo code Newsworthy. Again, that's swap.com and use the promo code Newsworthy, all one word. That's special for the Newsworthy listeners, plus there are other deals every day listed on swap.com's homepage. Now, back to the news. This is quite the change. Airport police in LA say you can now bring small amounts of marijuana into the Los Angeles airport. But the AP reports taking it on the plane may be a different story. It's still a federal crime, so if a federal agent like TSA finds it, then all bets are off. And if you're traveling to another state without these same rules, you're not in the clear either. In New York, some very different airport-related news. As many as 40,000 airport workers are about to get a raise. The New York Times says a minimum wage of at least $19 an hour will roll out over the next 5 years. That's the highest minimum wage target set by any public agency in the U.S. Let's talk Airline Wi-Fi, because we know it tends to be slow and unpredictable. But there's a new list of the top airlines for tech looking at availability, speed, cost, and more for its Wi-Fi, plus things like USB ports. A leading travel booking app in Asia called Traveloka ranked 50 airlines around the world, and the top 3 are Qatar Airways, Emirates, and Delta. But a Bloomberg report doesn't agree with all of the choices, but says overall things are getting better. Airlines are investing quite a bit in in-flight Wi-Fi right now as new satellites go up. Google wants to offer you a little help as you make holiday travel plans this year. As the company turns 20 this month, it's been launching some new features, and TechCrunch reports one of them is a page that shows you the best time to book your flights ahead of the upcoming holidays, like Thanksgiving. The data is based on what happened to airline ticket prices last year around the same times. It also shows you hotel deals and things to do for the holidays in certain cities, although it is limited to certain routes for now. Game of Thrones fans, you'll soon have a chance to stand where all the action happened. HBO announced it's converting several filming locations in Northern Ireland into tourist attractions. Variety reports it'll be called Game of Thrones Legacy Attractions, and HBO says it'll be bigger than anything like it, with costumes, props, and more. They're hoping for a 2019 grand opening. The same year, by the way, we'll be watching the grand finale of the series. And that's it. Thanks so much for listening today. If you got value out of today's episode, please be sure to share it. And as always, if you want to read more about any of the stories mentioned, I list all the sources and story links for you in today's show notes. Just go to thenewsworthy.com, click episodes, and find today's date. The Newsworthy is ready for you every weekday by 4 a.m. Eastern Time. So I'll be back with more news on Monday. Have a great weekend.